awards. First place is $100, second place is $50, third place, and I hear everybody wanted it, you should have told us, is two $10 gift certificates to Ben & Jerry's. So the third placers will get those, share it with your friends, will you? And as you do, we'd like you to read your essay, and this system is on over here, so everybody can hear you. I think that just for the sake of the fact some of you have to leave fairly quickly, that we will present your award and then just have you come right up and read. And then we'll do the next person's and have them read, okay? And we're going to start with Faith, because she's on her way out the door. Faith Hathaway, she's grade 11. She's a third place winner. And here's your two Ben & Jerry's. There's them anywhere, but the Ben & Jerry's here in Eastham is a particular supporter, as you know, of the school and you all. So go right ahead and give us your creation.
Civil discourse leads to the biggest leaps in the developments for society. When people set aside their differences to try and make compromises, civil discussions allow both groups to make improvements that they want to see in society. It is only in a situation where both groups feel that their opinions are respected in the discussion and that their voice is heard that these improvements can be made. This feeling of respect opens people up to compromises and leads to drastic improvements. Polarization stems from not only feeling strongly in support of your cause, but also from a strong opposition to the other side. This level of opposition comes from either being taught bigotry or from a previous experience where an individual did not feel heard. It is all but impossible to change a person's mind when you are condescending and disregard their ideas and feelings. However, continuing to discuss and explain why you believe a certain idea or want to make improvement will eventually allow other people to understand how you grew to believe your ideas. This was seen in the 1970s with the movement for civil rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The advocates continue to explain that genetics had proved that criminality was not hereditary and that these people were not dangerous. They fought to prove that the conditions and institutions, and instead of simply saying how bad it was, they showed the public why it was appalling and offered reasonable solutions on how to fix it. In the famous book, Shame of the States, the author worked with facilities to prove that they needed better staffing and funding. This civil discourse led to improvements rather than arguments. More recently, a similar phenomenon has been seen with the Parkland shooting. The survivors immediately began to debate, explaining their ideas rather than just attacking the opposition. In just 1 month, they've had legislature passed by various states and have changed the minds of millions of previous gun control opposers. The age of the advocates and the speed in which they receive results from their hard work makes this one of the most incredible movements in history. Another example of this was seen in debates to legalize same-sex marriage, during which the advocates remained civil in almost every discussion and debate. The supporters held parades and celebrated their cause, while their opposition fought to end the parades and screamed on the sides of the roads. Their leaders were not civil, and they only showed bigotry as they yelled and became enraged during almost every debate. In the end, the public saw and understood the points of the advocates, and public opinion began to sway in favor of legalizing same-sex marriage. Eventually, the Supreme Court legalized it as well. Understanding why people believe in their viewpoints has helped movements to achieve their goals. We've seen this across the globe in many different time periods. Being respectful in how you explain your views in debates will prove more effective than arguing.
Phone that has a camera because my phone died. Anybody? No? Yes? Take a picture. Mom, we'll do it. And have a good concert. Her brother's doing a trumpet concert. Head out. Oh, we got all fucked up too. You look good. Wow. Thank you. So our second place winner for the 11th grade is Sophia Pombo. And Sophia is one of two of the awards authorities who did attend our luncheon, and we had a chance to eat, so we had a chance to chat a little bit. And this is your award, and you get a little $50 check there, which you can spend at Ben & Jerry's if you want to. But as you take the podium over there, I want to make a comment about a term that I learned through FOR. We had a speaker last year, a man named Oreg O'Malley, who was a mediator to stop the conflict between Northern and Southern Ireland, and he also went to South Africa and worked with Mandela to help bring peace there. And he is now working in the Palestinian-Israeli situation, trying to bring about peace. One guy, one man, he has a book about this thick called not the Tale of Two States, something. But anyway, he doesn't think that there's any chance at all for peace unless you have what Faith used, but she didn't use the word, I just want to give it to you, parity of esteem. Parity of esteem. That means regarding each other as equals, and your stories are valid, no matter what's behind it, and and you're willing to listen. And I think that's a lovely concept I just want to leave you with, because it's worked wonders in certain places of the world. Go on, Sylvia.
As the United States becomes more and more polarized, civil discourse seems to have become a rarity. Civil discourse is an essential part of a functioning democracy in which the voice of the people must be heard and well represented. Civil debate is a tool that can be used to lessen the divide between people based on their political views or their stances on a social issue. When people engage with each other and share their ideas, progress is made. The integration of values and ideas is a necessary step needed to weaken the polarization of this country. In recent events, a panel of students from Parkland, Florida, met with Senator Marco Rubio to discuss gun control in America. Senator Rubio is one of the major politicians being paid by the NRA to protect the special interests of the Second Amendment. This payoff had a considerable influence on Senator Rubio's anti-gun control stance. In the beginning of the debate, Rubio stood by his position in support of the NRA. However, after speaking and debating with the student survivors and listening to their case in support of gun control, progress towards compromises were made in which Senator Rubio supported some measure of gun control in America. Civil debate is a good way for people to see other points of views and judge issues from a new perspective. Indeed, this scenario and situations like it are proof that civil discourse and debate are an effective way to diminish the divide between people based on their political views. Although it may be difficult for people to engage with others who have opposing views, it is a mature way to bring people together and make progress towards a less binary society. In addition to the use of civil discourse and conversation, it is immensely important to elect officials that practice and execute civil discourse both in their campaign and term. As our elected representatives, who hold some of the highest positions in power in this country, they hold a certain responsibility to take pride in their influence and set a standard for the messages they release. The impact they produce affects the entire country, and if they, of all people, are transmitted across the media, bickering over petty arguments and differences of opinion, then what kind of example is this leaving for the citizens of this country? Our elected officials should be a reflection of our values, and they need to learn that fighting solves nothing. The way to progress is through patience, understanding, tolerance, and civility. For certain, the combination of opinions is a powerful force when all voices are heard and considered.
No camera, sorry. Come on, Mom, don't you have camera?
I can take a picture if she needs one.
Yeah.
Oh, this probably.
We have a website, and a Facebook page. Thank you. Don't go too far away. Chloe Dulac is our first place winner for today, and I don't believe she's here. Is she here? No. She had a sports event today. So moving then along to 10th graders, I believe Aiden Dill is our third place winner, and I have to say the sophistication of these essays is puts me in awe. And again, you must have some really good teachers, you know. But I appreciate your effort in getting here and writing this, so let's hear what you got.
Epictetus once stated, "It was the first and most striking characteristic of Socrates never to become heated in discourse, never to utter an injurious or insulting word. On the contrary, he persistently bore insult from others and thus put an end to the fray." Civil discourse and debate is a virtue that seems to be used less and less in our society. And with this lack of civility and understanding, we find ourselves being pushed to one side or another. The civil discourse that once existed has been replaced with accusations, bullying, and a refusal to listen to anything other than one's own opinion. This trend of negligence will only lead our country into ruin. Parallels can be seen with the Roman Republic and public oration. The senators in ancient Rome would participate in civil discourse all the time, as it was how they made laws and got things done. One of the most significant instances of powerful and civil orations came from Cicero, who, with words alone, thwarted a conspiracy centered on assassinating him and overthrowing the Roman Republic. With 4 vehement speeches, known as the Catiline orations, he drove the assassins out of Rome. This is a very ancient example of what civil discourse is capable of, and I fear that if we let our country lose its grasp on civil discourse, it will only lead to trouble. This issue finds its foundation in America's increasing inability to discuss any political topic without resorting to anger. The difference between the two being the intention of the participants and how they plan to handle themselves throughout the debate. In a civil debate, the two participants bring up their arguments clearly with logic and facts, while retaining a professional demeanor and respecting the other participant and their views. This calm and productive way of communication leads to a greater understanding between opposing sides, and it also fosters goodwill and a respect for the opposing view. If America were able to participate in this unpolarized way of thinking and conduct debates with this manner, we would see much less hate and violence in society. Also, in listening to an opposing view and considering it logically instead of simply dismissing it, one might find inconsistencies in what they believe and even alter their own opinions because of it. In opposition, an argument that is antagonistic in nature would lead only to a further divide between parties. Because if one goes into an argument without an open mind, having already made up one's mind beforehand, it takes away any value the conversation might have had. The participants had already decided they would not listen, and therefore they learn nothing but hate. Civil discourse eradicates this hateful rhetoric and flowers understanding and less irrational violence towards an opposing view. And like in Rome, if we adopt more civil discourse, our society will become an infinitely better place.
I've never heard of Epictetus and Cicero until I got to college, and I'm sitting there going, really? Wow, let me shake this guy's hand.
Sure. There you go. You got it, Janice?
Good luck. All right. Next is our late winner, who is Lillian. Are you Lillian? Yes. And again, you guys did an awesome job with this, but I hope you will use that $50 for a good cause, and fun, if not justice, and show us what you got in the essay.
The concept of polarization is no new idea in American society. Opposing ideologies are a given, and the often extreme differences in opinion and the lack of understanding that follows is what causes brutal conflicts between parties. Because every topic has people on either side, there comes a time when we have to recognize that we won't be able to change everyone's opinion to fit our idea of right. The constant tug of war between opposing sides may cease with a simple solution: civil discourse. This is the idea of conversing in a way that is respectful and understanding. Contrary to popular belief, civil discourse does not mean surrendering our principles or abandoning our beliefs, but rather to listen and truly hear what our adversary is saying before we fire back that they are wrong. Throughout history, lack of civil discourse has caused conflicts between religions, races, sexes, political parties, and just about every other group that exists. Lack of communication is what causes disagreements to escalate into full-blown fights. So, how do we solve this problem? When people are so caught up in their own heads, it is hard to even recognize that what we are saying is not civil or helpful. Anger is a powerful emotion, and the temporary lapse in sanity that follows a rise in frustration can cause one to fall victim to impulsive speaking that gets us nowhere. Solving problems takes communication, and when people act like it's every man for themselves when there is no need, it prevents collaboration from being possible. I often find myself in fiery political arguments with Trump supporters, and they often end with me or them leaving in exasperation over how the other is unable to understand point of view. With this essay, I have forced myself to consider that maybe I am a factor in causing lack of civil discourse in political debates. Personally, I am a liberal Democrat, and I believe in equality for people of color, women, LGBTQ+, immigrants, religious groups, etc. When I find myself in arguments with people who think that gay marriage should be illegal, or that people of color are inherently violent, stupid, lazy, or rapists, I get, in short, uncivil. It is so hard for me to understand how people can believe such things that I lash out in frustration, disregarding their voice. Although I still believe that these people are wrong and hateful, civil discourse has inspired me to listen to them. Before I retort to their opinion, I say, I hear you. This simple phrase has allowed me to communicate with them that even though I think that they are wrong, I am hearing and processing their opinions. Sometimes I don't even respect the people that I fight with, but I do respect the concept of communication in civil discourse. When I say I hear you, I am in no way abandoning my beliefs. I am simply giving my adversary the recognition that, although I don't agree with them, I understand that they think they are right. Civil discourse is not easy. It is difficult to diffuse habits of conflict when it is easier to conform to habits of intolerance. Even as I write this essay, I find myself giving dirty looks to the driver of the Trump 2020 pickup truck in the parking lot of Hole-in-One. The dynamic of us versus them is so engraved in our brains that we have to actively try not to hate our adversaries. But in order to achieve a worldwide environment of civil discourse, we must respect the importance of peaceful communication, even when we do not respect our opposition.
Olivia, 10th grade, first place. Olivia wrote a poem, and the metaphor is wonderful. It's a palette of paint and an artist, right?
Yes.
So keep that in mind as you hear it.
A country divided, separated by predispositions and layers of hate, painted on over decades of imaginary differences that blind most from the truth, the reality that the only thing keeping peoples apart is disconnect. Ideas, like colors, are kept apart, far from each other, in a bid to keep each pure. But in doing so, there is no advance, no new shades, no never-before-seen blending of dyes that are our words. We, as a community, have refused to acknowledge the brilliance, the civility that is at the palette of our souls, yet it is lying dormant right under our noses. Only when the colors blend is there progress, is there a new beauty in the radiance of the interview. This supposed melting pot of people needs to take down the walls that have prevented peace from reigning over this nation. America is but a painting, unfinished, and at a peak point of creative influence. People must apply their personal brushstrokes to color as they believe we should be seen. The pigments of today are dulled by aversion, by fear of compromise. That potential that we have as a union is shadowed by all that is black and white. Only when peace governs our canvas will a symphony of color play the thoughts of every individual in harmony.
There are a whole lot of people in the world that think that poems and art have a lot more to get us by with the blending of making new colors than logical debate. So keep it up.
All right, there you go.
Okay, Shayla. Clarity is our third place. grade. Shayla also came to the luncheon we had the other day, and we had a chance to chat. Well, pull that mic down.
Over the years, our nation has become separated and arguments fill the land. During the course of a few years, disputes are increasingly tricky to put to rest. Bullying and suicide have grown tremendously. The need for guidance for our teens has reached an all-time high. Many teens feel that they are not accepted and in response turn to drugs. Struggling kids need a safe ground where they can express their feelings without being judged and ask for guidance without feeling embarrassed. Our country has experienced an uncharted number of deaths from gun violence and is now unsafe for an individual to have fun. Fear fills the air around us and follows us like a shadow that walks in our footsteps. As a child, many are now told to never walk alone in the woods, be aware of our surroundings, and to be careful around certain people. It is not right that kids today are growing up in a world that has to be feared. To be taught at a young age to not trust anyone you meet, to never have too much fun, and to never have a curious eye for trying something new that could be risky, are all the adventures not taken by a growing child. Is this the world you want to live in? Is this the world that was originally planned? And most importantly, how do we work together and fix what has gone wrong? One step forward to decrease the amount of hateful crimes and polarization in our nation is to engage in the action of civil discourse and civil debate. Being able to talk something out in a civil manner is the first baby step we can take in understanding each other. As a citizen, we should all get the chance to speak out about what is crawling inside of us, just waiting for the right moment to break free. Once one hears another's view on a topic, their mind branches off into multiple thoughts that they may have never allowed themselves to reach. Wearing the shoes of someone else and looking through their eyes represents all the citizens in the United States who are trying to look through the same pair of glasses, expecting a sudden change. That sudden change that everyone is expecting will not come overnight, will definitely not be the same as what everyone else envisions. As Gandhi once said, be the change you want to see in the world. We must begin with being the best individuals we can possibly become. It is also just as important to look at the world as a newborn baby, who enjoys and questions everything they sense, as if the world they live in was a complete mystery waiting to be solved. You could say the world is like a Rubik's Cube. The world can have thousands of different ways to be solved correctly, but we all want the same solution. Once everyone gets a chance for their voice to be heard equally, our country can start to take steps in becoming a better 21st century. After all, the framers of the Constitution did create America as a democracy. On the other hand, our nation can be viewed as being unequal, unfair, divided, and polarized. For instance, today our politics are greatly divided between political parties. Political role models are supposed to show children how we can work together to accomplish something that everyone agrees with. But recently, many reports have not proved this point. On the news, on top of the horrendous crimes committed, there are talks about politics and how they have completely different views and will not put their strikes to rest. Leading the nation and acting as one is now replaced with foreign wars and internet hacks. Even today, 222 years after the political parties were created, the Republicans and Democrats cannot see eye to eye for the life of them. On the same token, political parties seem to forget that they are all living humans. They want to see a good change in the world, and most of them have children that they want to see grow up in a kind world. A world that one sees for the first time with so much hope and innocence. Political parties are currently divided about gun control. The Democrats and Republicans are so divided on this issue that they forget that they are both in favor of seeing the world change for the better, and do not even care to listen to each other's views. As Atticus Finch once said in the book To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb to his skin and walk around in it. Until political parties really listen to each other, no action should be made because it will only hurt the other side. Besides, only the best debaters can argue the other side.
Clayton. And this is being filmed, by the way, for a class project.
Yeah.
So if you want a copy, if you can get it on the website, I mean, get it to me, I'll get it on the website.
All right.
Clayton, second place for 9th grade submissions, and let me see what you got.
Our country is becoming less peaceful each day. We become more polarized and filled with more conflicts. To restore peace to our country, it would mean to have no bullying, no hatred, no arguments, no fear, no polarizing. There are many steps needed to be taken by our nation to be more peaceful. The first step is reducing the polarity by using civil discourse and debate. We can accomplish this. A perfect example of polarization being reduced by civil discourse and debate took place at Nausa Regional Middle School last year. The conflict was that the 8th grader students wanted to be able to chew gum, carry their backpacks, and wear their hats during school, but the student handbook said they couldn't. This caused polarization in the school, with the groups being the students and the staff. The students organized what they called a sit-down, where during a block the students had their electives. They left their classes and sat in the auditorium as a protest. Both the principal and vice principal went down to the auditorium and explained to the students the reasons behind the rules being protested against. This was the civil discourse of the situation, because the students now knew why the rules had been put in place. Then the principal and vice principal listened to why the students wanted these rules to be changed, if not removed. The students and staff had conversations. This was the debate of the conflict. Now that both groups knew the whole story, they came to an agreement. The staff had added more half days in the school year and allowed students to carry small bags around the campus. And during tests or MCAS, students were able to chew gum. This agreement removed the polarization by having the civil discourse and debate calm and peacefully. Both sides were able to settle on an agreement and remove the polarization from the school and bring back the peace. To reduce and eventually get rid of polarization in America and have peace throughout our nation, we must start the change by using discourse and debate to calmly settle our conflicts. Having peace in our country would hopefully enable it to spread throughout the world. We wouldn't have huge nation concerns like school shootings, terrorism, as well as not having worldwide conflicts, for example, the nuclear taunting between the US and North Korea. World peace is being able to walk outside your home and not be afraid, to have no bullying, harassment, or crimes, everyone being happy, living and working together in peace. All of this can be kick-started by decreasing our nation's polarity.
I love examples of success, and you gave us a good one there with that example. Your school.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty, last but not least, Liam Randall. And this is,
Disagreement is human nature. People will always have their own opinions. It is the way people disagree, though, that shapes the argument. Today, the nation, considered polarized by many, disagrees on many issues. But it is the way people disagree that causes polarization. Civil discourse and civil debate, the abilities to discuss arguments with each other in a well-mannered way, are the ways we can help stop the country's growing polarization through communication. Communication will help end polarization through listening, understanding, and expressing. First, communication can help end polarization through listening. Listening gives people the chance to hear themselves. As the Persian Muslim poet Rumi once stated, "Listen, clam up your mouth and be silent like an oyster shell, for that tongue of yours is the enemy of the soul, my friend. When the lips are silent, the heart has 100 tongues." People often speak before their minds fully comprehend their speech. Rumi believed, once people listen to their heart rather than their mind, they can fully understand their own thoughts and feelings and not their anger. They can speak with their passion rather than their hate. Today, if people listen to their hearts, they can speak about their true feelings on a political topic and express them rather than hate those who oppose their idea. Listening can help people understand their true feelings rather than their hate. Another way communication can help end polarization is through understanding. Understanding each other's perspectives and thoughts can help foster peace. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau once described understanding as a good teacher isn't someone who gives the answers out to their kids, but is understanding of needs and challenges and gives tools to help other people succeed. Trudeau describes understanding not as the ability to help others, but addressing their needs and challenges. Similarly, civil discourse can be achieved if people work to understand others' opinions rather than preaching their own. If people discuss why something should be believed rather than what should be believed, civil discourse can be accomplished. Finally, communication helps to end polarization through expression. Expression is people's ability to share their opinions. Liu Xiaobo, a Nobel Peace Prize fighter against corrupt communism, once said about expression, "Free expression is the base of human rights, the root of human nature, and the mother of truth. To kill free speech is to insult human rights, to stifle human nature, and to suppress truth." Liu believed that expression is every person's right. When communicating, expression is important in ensuring everyone's opinions are heard. People must have the chance to express themselves in order for proper communication. And if this can be achieved, people can speak the truth of their thought. Without expression, people are silenced. As can be seen, communication can help end polarization and foster civil discourse and debate through listening, understanding, and expression. Communication gives people the opportunity to share their ideas, listen to each other, and understand their perspectives. Communication can help create peace by protecting human rights.
Last year, we had a group picture of you all, but since we've got a couple people not here, I think we'll go with the individual shots. If you want one, I'm hoping everybody will send them to me, drkdepperly@gmail.com, and I'll put them out on Facebook, and then you can grab them from there. I think that the wisdom of communication is in our midst, and I don't know if anybody had questions or comments, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to do that. Rather than as we go with each person, you may not be able to remember a comment or a quote you had for any of the students, but do you have any thoughts or comments you want to share about it? Yes?
I have to say, you folks give me hope that there is a future.
Dan Chadwick Purdy and her husband Dave Purdy are affiliated as the Holmans with the Fellowship for Reconciliation, and Dave, and I don't know if